Watch review show, Nutnfancy project. This is an M70A by Zastava. Tokarev style of pistol. Reviewed, highly recommended, very affordable, extremely accurate, and 100% reliable, by the way. Kind of a Cold War era pistol. It is ours. We love it. We're never going to sell it. That's how much we like it. It's going to be tabletop decoration for this WRV. Thanks for watching. There are a subset of TMPers that love the watch reviews. I appreciate you guys. I keep on trucking because I've spent some money on these watches, and sometimes a lot of money testing them, depending on which one it is. And I do a lot of research online to diversify my watch recommendations for you. In cards somewhere on this video, you will see my Hall of Fame watch recommendations. So I don't waste time with turkeys. Everything that's in there is a great watch. Highly recommended. Some of those have been reviewed. I'm not going to tell you which ones they are, and some are awaiting review, so they will go into the playlist as well, as will this watch. And believe it or not, it's not a Seiko, a Citizen, or a Casio. Not a Momentum or any of the other brands I've reviewed. It's actually a Hugo Boss. Yeah, I'm surprised too. I really am. But my online research led me to this watch. I'm a big fan of vintage style of watches, but I was led to this one as I researched other brands of vintage style of pilot watches. I love them. Pilot watches to me mean recreations of the 1930s, 1940s style of German aviation watches, British aviation watches worn by both pilot and navigators. This Hugo Boss is striking in appearance. I don't know if the camera's capturing it, and we're going to start there. It is absolutely gorgeous in person because of the blue iridescent dial. Let me get even closer here. It's a looker. Really is. And so it's a modern interpretation of a pilot watch. Do I have any others to show you? Nah, I may roll it in inset. I've reviewed several already. Coming to mind would be the Aviate brand. They are some of my favorites. So their recreations too, their interpretations of World War II style of pilot watches. And I think this is too, but it has a modern twist to it. This Hugo Boss. This is the model number. Hugo Boss men's analog. It's 1513331, I think. That's what it is. And here's the case that it came in. Nothing spectacular. The case is a little bit underwhelming. Pretty standard, actually. I rarely show the case. A few instructions there. But it's all about the watch. Now, I did talk about in the Aviate reviews, I love the cases. Those come in. They are second cool. They have a little collector card with it, with a Hawker Hurricane, Lancaster Bomber, Aviate, Harrier 2, stuff like that. But this one won't have all the accoutrements with it, but it does have the look. And for me to like a pilot watch, it has to be super legible first and foremost. And the Hugo Boss Pilot, which I'll call it, and you can see it right there on the face, is legible. I can pick out the time readily, and it has big enough hands where, again, you can speed read off this thing. Kind of a tachymeter graduation scale on the outer ring, which really provides some visual interest. I like that. It's a good looking face on it. Arabic numerals, and none of them are missing. Again, I say it's a modern interpretation. It's not really a Type A or Type B dial of pilot watch. If it was, then we would have, let me get my Dragonfly here to point, a triangular scale right here. That's pretty typical for Type A, Type B pilot watches. And I'll cover more of those as we move along here, because again, it's a favorite style of mine. I love the divers, the vintage, and I'm talking just analog, not like G-Shocks or stuff, and some sport watches. The hands have great loom. I'll try to remember to show you it here in a sec, here in the missile silo. You can see the registration of the movement of the second hand, I should say, with that hollow triangular tip on it, which is pretty sick. It is a Japanese quartz movement in here. I believe Citizen. I could be wrong on that. Battery life should be around 2 years is what I'm getting out of my quartz watches. Sometimes less, depending on the power cell. I replaced one on a dive watch and had a really tiny power cell. I basically got a year and 3 months out of it before I had to replace it. So that's unfortunate. Look at the numerals too on this, how they're kind of glistening. So they're shiny, and they again blend in thematically with that blue iridescent background. Just a gorgeous looking men's watch. Perhaps one of the very few dress watches that I will review. I think you could classify the Hugo Boss Pilot Edition as a dress watch, don't you think? It's got the looks, it's got a shiny case to it, stainless steel case. Coin-sided bezel on it, so it looks kind of like a coin. Look at the day and date too, partially occluded by the hands, but you get the idea. Really big and legible, this day and date. I love that. And it's black lettering against a white background, which makes it very readable. So that's huge to me. I mean, I like it when it has day and date. And let me see if I have one on the table that kind of violates this principle. The Wegner Sea-Force is excellent. I really love it. It will be reviewed separately. It is a diver, but it has black lettering on a white background, but it's very small and it's date only. So this is what I'm talking about, and that's pretty standard. Momentum watches do it too. So they do have date, but usually for my eyes, I can't see it readily. And of course, as I'm reviewing it, I'm getting the hands to cover the day and date. It's pretty silent in operation. The Pilot Edition, I cannot hear it at all in a quiet room. That, by the way, is kind of important to me. There are some Timex watches which I love. They're high value, they're well made, they have great legibility, cool features, good looks, they're awesome watches, but some of them tick pretty loudly. I do think with the latest variations that Timex is catching on to this, and knowing that, you know, a knowledgeable buying public, we don't like loud analog watches. Generally, I don't. I'll put up with it if I get a lot of other things in return. Every watch has some weirdness to it for sure. Let's measure the Hugo Boss Pilot Edition across. It's nice and big, just like I like it. Relatively speaking, 44 millimeters in diameter. It's going to be a very thin watch, easy to wear. Just 10.4 millimeters. The lug spacing on it, if you were to replace the band, is a standard 22 millimeters. So that gives you lots and lots of options. Lots of options. I love the logo presentation too. Again, the font they chose for the Pilot Edition is superb. The Boss logo, awesome. And I forgot to mention, of course, you have the military time on the inner dial. A throwback to a pilot watch, of course. Let's look at the case. Non-screw down crown, Boss logo on the side, 316L stainless steel, satin finished on the side, nice downward angle on the lugs. Screwing case back, which will make battery replacement actually pretty easy to do at home. If you have a standard watch toolkit, you'll find that it's pretty easy to replace those batteries in most cases. You'll have a retention screw usually that you'll take off on the back, and then you can carefully take that battery out and replace it. I just buy the batteries in Amazon when they go out. O-ring sealed. About 50 meters, 5 atmospheres for this. This is not a dive watch, of course. It's more of a dress watch more than anything. And you can see the registration number in the back. Really good looking case back actually on this quartz movement. I have been wearing some automatic watches lately. I do like them a lot. They are high maintenance though. I'll say that over and over again. You have to run them once a month to keep them lubricated. Probably get them serviced every 5 years. That will mean taking it to a watchmaker, and who knows how much he's going to charge you. Probably a lot. They are cool. They have a soul. Automatic watches do. They do. I love them. The rotors, all the moving parts, they're super cool, especially with a sapphire crystal on the back so you can see the parts. But there's nothing like the simplicity of a quartz, and accuracy for that matter. A lot of my autos wander several minutes during a week. Look at the band, and I will actually put it on my wrist, more or less. I'll lay it against the wrist. Really nice lined calfskin band. Love the tan on this. I definitely would not take this band off. No way. I mean, it is perfect against that iridescent blue. Look at how good looking that is. Great gift watch, by the way. Stainless steel clasp, Hugo Boss logo. And by the way, I'm not one to be impressed by any fashion names, whether it's Hugo Boss, whatever. I did not review this watch for that. I couldn't care less. What I'm looking at is the functionality and execution of the watch, which as you're seeing, nails it. Really does. And here it is on my wrist. So again, I have kind of thinner wrists, but there's plenty of adjustment in the band, so you know, if you have big wrists, it'll fit you just fine. That is perfect sizing, dudes. Perfect sizing. If there's one thing I'd ask for, it would be that the hands would be just a little bit bigger. Kind of like, again, a vintage style aviation watch. That's what I'd like. I'm going to charge it up here as we look at the Lume 2. Got the O-light in operation. And it's not going to be totally dark, but you'll get the idea. The hands are actually outlined in, you know, shiny metal. Of course they're lined up. I'm not going to change my hack for this though. Sorry, not going to do it. It's actually synced to my local time. There you go. So you got no illumination on the markers. It's just going to be on the hands. The seconds hand is not illuminated, which is about what we would expect for a dress watch, right? And by way of comparison, I have a Wegener Squadron GMT dive watch. It's awesome. Reviewing it separately. Here's what it looks like though. So the Wegener is pretty much dominating that Hugo Boss for illumination. It's a cool watch. GMT stands for Greenwich Mean Time, and so this hand can actually track a completely different time zone. Kind of cool. So this is kind of a diver. This has a sapphire crystal on it too, and I bought it in eBay for like 70 bucks. The Squadron GMT. I tweeted it out too, so if you subscribe to my Twitter account, if I find those awesome deals, I'll tweet it out. This one here, the Hugo, is not inexpensive for what it is. About $200 is what I paid for it. $200. So will I keep it, turn it over, sell it? I don't know. Would you like to see it stay in the cast of watches presented in the watch show here in TMP? That's a question I'll pose to you guys. It would be kind of a nice one to show in comparison to a steady stream of dive watches and field watches, right? It's probably one of the few fancy watches I have or will review. That's because it's generally not my aesthetic. I don't generally like dress watches. What do you think? Are you a dress watch dude? Do you wear gold watches, silver watches? Do you like the leather bands, or do you prefer a stainless steel or gold plated bracelet or something more trick? Be interested to hear. But everything else about this watch, every criticism I have against it is super, super minor, except the cost. I would really like this cost to be around $125 for the Hugo Boss. That would be ideal. But it's not, and there's probably some licensing fees going on here. But the iridescent blue is such a win for this style of watch, and it has a relatively large face. To find a pilot watch that has this blue and a big legible date and quality quartz movement, maybe that's what you have to pay. Nutnfancy. See ya.